Close to half of the people in the world today were born after the death of Pablo in December of 1993. But a reasonable number of them will tell you they've heard about this guy. So who was Pablo Escobar? The Colombian drug lord Pablo Emilio Gaviria Escobar, born on December 1st, 1949, died on December 2nd, 1993, is the greatest drug dealer ever to come out of South America and the world at large. A lot of people know this guy thanks to a number of films scrambling over his life story. The guy was an absolute beast in the drug business back in the 1980s. He is the founder of the famous Medellin Cartel. The narco-terrorist was so lethal that the streets coined a name for him, the King of Cocaine. He is on the record as the wealthiest criminal ever in history. At the time of his death, at only 44 years old, he had amassed a net worth of $30 billion. And that's on the lower side. That amount is equivalent to about $53.5 billion today. El Patron, meaning the boss, had two conflicting sides: the ruthless businessman and the gentle family guy. No one has made the American DEA strain like Pablo did. He was intelligent and cunning. He also goes in history as the man who committed all the possible heinous crimes that exist. Yet people still adored him. Up to this day, Colombia is famous for two things: football and Pablo Escobar. The drug kingpin splits opinions. For there is a side that almost immortalizes him and the side that curses him. Which side are you? Escobar made so much money in the 80s, more than anybody else. His Medellin Cartel monopolized cocaine trafficking to the United States. He would ship up to 15 tons in a day into the US. Escobar always had a business acumen, from a very tender age, needless to say, illegal ones. He started by selling cigarettes when he was still a teenager, then graduated to stealing cars and tombstones. The informal settlement where he was brought up was marred by lawlessness. This factor allowed Escobar to thrive in his quest to become a top-notch criminal. He quickly rose the ranks in the criminal industry and started taking more risks by kidnapping innocent people and demanding ransom. Once Escobar tasted money and felt how good it was, there was no turning back for him. In 1976, he formed the Medellin Cartel, one of the most dangerous criminal organizations in the world. If you haven't watched the series that depicts his lifetime story, called Narcos, then your taste for entertainment must be very questionable. Escobar started out by personally flying drugs on a small plane to America. After his empire had expanded immensely, he acquired a fleet of planes to aid in his cocaine trafficking. He would stash kilos of cocaine in plane tires and any other available space in the aircraft. At the peak of his inhumane career, Pablo made unbelievable amounts of money. He would make up to $420 million a week. Keep in mind we are talking about the 1970s and 1980s. He was so wealthy that, at some point, money didn't matter to him anymore. In the late 80s, the Colombian authorities got wind of where he was hiding his ill-accumulated wealth. They moved in and seized a whopping 142 planes, 20 helicopters, and some 32 yachts. Is that even real to you? Well, believe it or not, the Medellin boss owned all that and much more. It is reported that Escobar owned about 142 homes across Colombia. Get this, Pablo made so much money that his pilots, responsible for safely shipping the white gold into the United States, would walk home with $500,000 per trip made. If you give me that much money, I'm not sure how it would end. But one thing is for sure, I'll sweat profusely. Pablo even bought a plane, specifically for flying his cash. Unlike multinationals and big companies like Facebook and Amazon, whose net worth are tied to their stock, Pablo's net worth came in hard cash. One of his 142 homes, located in Puerto Triunfo, was better than the president's residence without a doubt. In this palatial home, Pablo built a zoo, then imported wild animals from all over the world to fill it up. He imported hippos, elephants, giraffes, rhinos, among other bush animals. I highly doubt if there exists any citizen with so much money to do what Escobar did. After his death, this home was turned to a museum, and the hippos still roam in the compound until today. The money Pablo made came in thick and fast. It got to the point where he didn't know where to keep it. He started stashing the cash in old warehouses, while the remaining bills were wrapped in papers and buried underground. It is also reported Pablo and his Medellin Cartel spent over $1,000 a week to purchase rubber bands used for tying up the cash. Pablo Escobar was evil, yes. But again, he had this tender side of him that made others adore him. He would literally give thousands of dollars in the form of handouts to the poor. He also actively participated in community projects, including building schools for the poor, constructing houses, and building sport complexes. Dirty money, good deeds. Due to his charitable works, Escobar would then decide to join politics with one objective in mind: fighting extradition. He successfully secured a seat in the Colombian Chamber of Representatives through the Liberal Alternative Movement Party in 1982. 2 years into his booming political career, hell would break loose, with the country's Minister of Justice sponsoring his ouster from the Congress. That didn't rub Escobar the right way, and it marked the start of a deadly bloodbath. Pablo started by eliminating the minister who had set him up, killing him like a stray dog. He also burnt a whole court building in an attempt to interfere with evidence against him. Pablo felt vilified by both the Colombian and American governments, who kept pushing for his arrest. Despite all the circus on the side, his cash flow never for a minute stopped streaming in. He would use his money to buy off police officers and senior government officials. The bribery was one of a kind though. He gave his targets two options: you either take the bribe or kiss your life goodbye. The phrase commonly referred to as plata o plomo, a Spanish word for silver or lead. Pablo was directly responsible for the death of over 4,000 people, including 200 judges and over 1,000 officers, hundreds of journalists, and several senior government officials. One thing about having money is that it can give you a voice when no one least expects. This was evident after Pablo agreed to make a deal with the government concerning his arrest. He personally drafted the terms and conditions. So you sell drugs, kill thousands of people, and decide how you should be detained. Pablo did choose himself a prison, which he owned. The luxurious amenities at La Cathedral were still perfect, as if he hadn't moved from his main home. In fact, it was better, because the state wasn't after him anymore. He had a swimming pool, a casino, a nightclub, and even a theme park at the so-called jail. 2 years later, he escaped when they attempted to transfer him to a more formal prison. During this time, while hibernating at one of his hideouts, he burnt $2 million to warm his shivering daughter. If Manuela is still alive today, I wonder how she feels having made Daddy break such an ingenious record. Pablo couldn't imagine being locked up in America. He even offered to pay the entire public debt of Colombia, $10 billion, in order for the laws to be changed in his favor. At this point is when you notice Escobar was richer than his motherland Colombia. So much so that he featured on the Forbes Rich list for 7 years straight, from 1987. At some point around 1990, he was named the second richest man in the world, only trounced by the Sultan of Brunei. When the drug agencies started seizing his fleet of planes, he bought 2 submarines to cover the damages and continue with the business as if nothing had happened. Chances are high that the rats in Pablo's home turf of Medellin have seen more money than you are likely to see in your lifetime. The naughty rodents were responsible for the destruction of millions of dollars in the warehouses where El Patron hid his stash. Pablo Escobar may have been the most ruthless killer and prolific drug baron that ruined millions of lives. However, it is fair to talk about his right side, for the people he helped. When Pablo was killed by the Colombian authorities just a day after his 44th birthday, some people rejoiced. Some people mourned in equal measure. His funeral was attended by around 25,000 people, the majority of whom he had touched their lives directly. To them, he was and will always remain their Robin Hood. So there you have it, how much money Pablo Escobar made. What would you do with all this money? Let us know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to leave a like and subscribe.